we taking straight naked dudes. For real. It's like the YMCA but for Rust.
Fucking liar.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, we're taking a look at Rust today, and you might be asking, what is Rust? Well, aside from it sounding like fan fiction for salad fingers, you wouldn't be far from the mark.
The feeling of Rust is almost orgasmic.
Rust is easily one of the most cathartic games I've ever played. There's something compelling about meeting another naked for the first time, clinging desperately to their precious rock, only to have them swing into a murderous flight, wildly flaying at you. All the while, dicks dangling freely in a hail of blows and blood. Freudian and feral, it's often hilarious as it is horrific. If you come out Cain in your first biblical battle against another naked, you'll find yourself more cautiously surveying your surroundings. Every bush and every corner is a potential phallic pitfall of betrayal and murder. Your first few hours in Rust quickly teaches you one simple thing: trust no one. Even offline, your round rumpus isn't safe. Your character is persistent in the world, unless the server you're playing on isn't a sleeper server. Even when you do encounter someone who appears friendly or helpful, there is really a good chance they're planning to fuck with you in some form or other. More often than not, you'd be lured with the promise of clothing, weapons, or food, only to be swiftly murdered and eaten. Yes, this is a thing. All locked up in a prison of sorts. You know the kind.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Once you manage to become more wily and wise and mastering the basics of resource gathering and building, you'll probe deeper into the island, finding abandoned locations to rummage through and loot, hopefully acquiring pants and a steadily growing arsenal to fend off other dicks. Progression in Rust is all about what you can craft, and most things can be crafted pretty quickly, apart from explosives and some of the high-end items. So how is that progression? I hear you bleat in confounded conjecture. Well, out the gate, you'll have a limited amount of things you're able to craft. Everything else you need to learn, and this is handled in two ways. First place is finding the blueprint for an item. These are found in containers, chests, or other people's homes or their persons. This will grant you permanent knowledge on how to create the item. The latter is to reverse engineer the complete item in a research table via blueprint fragments, which you find fairly often. Now, what makes Rust fun is the human element. Like many games that are player-driven, the experience is always unique and unpredictable. But this can also, however, lead to some issues as well. Most people tend to feel too precious about death and loss in a game that is built around this. So brace yourself for the inevitable vitriolic strings of insults you will no doubt be receiving. Well, if you have a thick skin, this is generally more funny than it is actually upsetting. Unless, of course, the butt-flustered bastard rocks up at your front door, which is an entirely different matter altogether. For every bullet you dispense, you can be sure there's another with your name on it. Raiding and looting is a big element to Rust, and defending your bountiful booty requires you to build an abode to square it all away. How and where you go about this is totally up to you. Base design is an incredibly important thing in this game. From airlock door designs to false doors to throw raiders off. The range of crafty and cunning ways to lay out your base is endless. Something you'll be continuously iterating on, because even when you think you've built something solid, someone is going to come along and expose just how shitty an architect you really are. I love this aspect, and I eventually became incredibly good at designing some truly impressive designs. There are 5 quality tiers in base building, and starting from paper-thin twigs right up to thick steel plating, requiring heavy explosives to breach or destroy. This also is where Rust begins to lose some steam. Once players have built huge and impenetrable bases, it becomes a massive undertaking to raid even the simplest of bases. This also diminishes the exciting element of vulnerability and tension, leaving most players holed up in ivory towers, shooting at whatever poor sod crosses their lawn. For this very reason, most servers will opt to perform a complete wipe every week or two to keep things from stagnating. Personally, I'd love to see something imaginative introduced in the game to stave this off, even while that is hard to imagine what it even would be. I really enjoyed my time with Rust, and I can honestly say it gave me some of the funniest and even rage-inducing moments I've ever had, and I regret nothing. So in closing, if you enjoy crafting, shooting, looting games, I'd say this should be in the top of your list if you haven't already played it. And if you're new to this genre, I feel Rust is a great entry point. The combat is exhilarating and hit detection is spot on. Huge deal in my opinion, compared to other games that have wonky combat and hit detection. Yes, I'm looking at you, Ark. If you've come this far and watching the video, thank you very much for watching. I enjoyed putting this together. If you want to see a little bit more gameplay, I'm going to actually put up a second video that's just more raw gameplay and some ridiculously silly moments with family and friends playing Rust. I did host a server for a little while. It was a hell of a lot of fun. I've also been holding off a little bit because I actually wanted to get a proper capture card. I was getting a little bit frustrated with choppy frame rate. Unfortunately, the Rust footage will still be choppy because I didn't have the capture card at the time, but I figured to go ahead anyway. Also, after this, I'm looking to do a couple of long plays of 2 games in particular. First of all, being Outcast, hugely influential game in my life and very touching for me. I love it to bits, so I'll be putting some of that up. Also, another peculiar thing I discovered, it's billed as a walking simulator, but it seems to have a bit of a horror flair to it. A game called Corpse Discovery. It seems to have mixed reviews, but I played a few minutes of it and I kind of like the charm to it. There's a very subtle sort of psychological pacing to it I think I really enjoyed, and I'll be sticking some of that up too, see what people think. I think it warrants some exposure at least. Well, I think that about wraps it up. This is probably going to get a bit long now, but yes, thanks everyone. Till next time, peace out, Cub Scouts.
She was my life, but her house was dark. She said she's falling from the stars and thoughts